Once upon a time, there was a village called Umuago. It was a place of music, festivals, and ancient traditions. Unlike other villages in the region, Umuago was famous for its drummers. From birth, almost every child in the village learned how to beat the drum before they could even write their names. The sound of drums was more than entertainment. It was how the villagers called meetings, celebrated harvest and honored their ancestors. Among the many drummers in Muago, two stood out, Obi and Chike. They were childhood friends, almost like brothers. Both of them came from respected drumming families, and they inherited a gift that even the elders could not explain. When Obi and Chike drummed together, it was said that the trees swayed to the rhythm, the animals became calm, and even the most stubborn children could not resist dancing. As the years passed, the names Obi and Chike spread beyond Muago. Kings from distant land invited them to festivals, and wealthy families paid huge sums for them to perform at weddings and celebrations. Together, they became the pride of Muago. But behind the fame, something dark was growing. Obi had always been more reserved, a man of few words, but deep inside, he craved recognition. Chike, on the other hand, was cheerful and friendly. He greeted everyone, rich or poor, with the same warm smile. Naturally, villagers and visitors alike loved Chike more, and without meaning to, they often praised him louder than Obi. At first, Obi tried to ignore it, but slowly jealousy began to consume him. Whenever they performed together, he noticed how people clapped harder for Chike, how they offered him more food, and how maidens secretly admired him. Obi's heart burned with envy. He told himself, if Chike was not here, I would be the greatest drummer Umuago has ever known. One fateful day, the two friends were invited to perform at the palace of a wealthy chief. After hours of drumming, the chief was so pleased that he rewarded them with gifts of money and gold. But when it came to showing gratitude, he placed his hands on Chike's shoulder and declared loudly, "This one is truly touched by the gods." The words pierced Obi's heart like a spear. That night, Obi made a decision that would change the destiny of the village forever. He lured Chike into the forest under the pretense of collecting firewood for their drums. When they reached a lonely path by the river bank, Obi struck his friend with a heavy stick. Chike fell to the ground, his drum rolling into the water. With trembling hands, Obi buried Chike's body beneath the old Iroko tree, believing no one would ever find out. When Obi returned to the village, he lied to the people. He said Chike had traveled to a distant town to perform for another chief. The villagers believed him at first, but days turned into weeks and weeks into months. No one ever saw Chike again. Obi now performed alone, and though people still admire his skills, something was missing. The joy, the spirit, the life in the music was gone. The strange things began to happen. On the first moonless night after Chike's death, the villagers were awakened by the sound of drumming. At first, they thought Obi was practicing, but when they looked out of their windows, Obi was not there. The drumming came from the forest. It was deep, powerful, and sorrowful. A rhythm no living hand could produce. Terrified, the villagers gathered the next morning and asked Obi if he had been drumming. He swore he had not touched his drum that night. Some believed him, others did not. But when the drumming continued the following night, louder, faster, echoing through every corner of Umuago, everyone knew it was something beyond the ordinary. Fear spread through the village. Mothers held their children close. The elders gathered in secret, whispering that it was the spirit of Chike, restless and hungry. They said the beats were a message, a cry for justice. Obi tried to act innocent, but each night, the drumming grew more intense. Sometimes it sounded right outside his hut, pounding through his ears until he could not sleep. He began to see shadows moving by the iroko trees, and at times, he swore he heard Chike's voice calling his name. The people of Umuago could no longer endure the haunting. They demanded answers. Why does the ghost of Chike torment us? What sin has been committed in secret, they asked. The elders declared that until the truth was revealed, the village would never know peace. The midnight drumming did not stop. For 7 nights in a row, the sound of Chike's drum echoed through the forest, piercing the hearts of every man, woman, and child in Umuago. By the 8th night, the villagers could no longer remain silent. The elders summoned Obi to the village square. The moon hung low that night, casting pale light on the faces of the frightened villagers. Obi stood in the middle, his eyes heavy with sleeplessness, his hands trembling, though he tried to appear calm. The oldest elder, Nnamdi, raised his staff and spoke. Obi, son of Uchenna, you stand before your people. For nights, the spirit of Chike has refused to rest. The drum speaks when no hands play them. Tell us, what do you know of this matter? Obi swallowed hard. I know nothing, Elder Nnamdi. Chike left the village months ago. Perhaps his spirit returns because he died on his travels. But even as Obi spoke, the midnight drumming began again. The villagers froze. The sound was close this time, so close it seemed to come from the very ground beneath their feet. The rhythm was furious, demanding, unrelenting. Suddenly, a strange wind swept through the square, extinguishing the fire that lit their gathering. The people gasped in fear. Out of the darkness came a chilly voice that echoed above the drumming. Obi, Obi, why did you betray me? The villagers screamed and scattered, but the elders stood their ground. When the fire was quickly relit, they saw something that made their blood run cold. There in the center of the square stood a shadowy figure, holding a drum that glowed faintly with an otherworldly light. His face was hidden, but the voice was unmistakable. It was Chike. Obi fell to his knees, shaking violently. No, it cannot be you. I buried you. He stopped, realizing too late what he had just confessed. The villagers gasped. Murmurs broke out. He buried him? He killed Chike? The spirit of Chike beat the drum again, and they heard trembled beneath them. The elders raised their staff for protection, but none could silence the spirit. You struck me down, Obi, the ghost thundered. You buried me beneath the iroko tree, thinking no one would ever know. But the drums cannot be silent. The truth always speak. Now justice must be done. The villagers turned on Obi with cries of anger and betrayal. Mother who once danced to his music now cursed him. Fathers who had praised his talent now spat on his feet. Obi tried to run, but each time he moved, the drumming grew louder, pushing him back towards the center of the square. The elders held a quick council. Elder Nandi declared, "The land must be cleansed. A murderer cannot live among us. The spirit of Chike demands justice, and justice must be done tonight." The villagers agreed. With torches in their hands, they followed the ghostly drum into the forest. The spirit of Chike led them to the very spot beneath the iroko tree. With trembling hands, they dug into the earth, and there, just as the spirit had said, they found Chike's lifeless body, his drum still lying beside him. Cries of sorrow filled the night. The maidens wailed. The drummers of the village struck their drums in mourning, creating a sorrowful rhythm that mingled with the ghostly beats of Chike's drum. Obi could no longer hide. He fell to the ground, crying bitterly. "I only wanted to be great. I only wanted to be remembered," he screamed. Elder Nandi shook his head sadly. "Greatness built on envy is destruction. You have destroyed yourself." That very night, Obi was tied to the base of the iroko tree, where he had buried his friends. The elders declared that his punishment would be decided by the gods at dawn. But before the first light of morning could come, the villagers awoke to another sound. Obi's scream echoing through the night, followed by the relentless drumming. When they reached the forest, Obi was gone. Only his drum remained at the foot of the iroko tree, split into two as though struck by lightning. The villagers searched, but Obi was never seen again. Some say the spirit of Chike dragged him into the world of the dead. Others believe Obi still wanders the forest, cursed, with no peace in life or death. From that day on, no villager of Umuago dared to beat a drum at midnight, for they believed the spirit would awaken and the sound of Chike's drum would return. And so, the story of the midnight drummer's revenge lived on, told from generation to generation as a warning that envy destroys and the drums of justice always find their rhythm. Did you enjoy the story? Tell us your favorite part in the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also, do not forget to follow our channel on Facebook and Instagram.